Hi there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Recently one of our fans, Isaac Castman, sent us an awesome video idea. He asked us what would have happened if the Separatist Alliance actually tried to win the war and basically gone against Palpatine. I mean, just imagine what Count Dooku was thinking in those last few moments of his life. He probably wanted to just hide his head in the two stumps where his hands used to be. He must have felt so betrayed by his master, the foolishness and arrogance he had to think that he, an 80-year-old man, could be the apprentice and future of the Sith. If only he had known that Palpatine was going to betray him, he would have gone back to the beginning of the war and played his cards very differently. You know, back when he still had a chance to take matters into his own hands, pull the trigger and grab a hold of the reins of destiny, and wrestle the galaxy into submission with an iron fist. Back when he had hands on experience of what it's like to control one of the largest and most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Well, Isaac, thank you for the question, and if you guys want your question to be featured on our channel, follow us on Facebook and send us a message. When Count Dooku told Obi-Wan Kenobi the truth about Darth Sidious and his control of the Republic, what if he were serious about actually fighting against his master? Obviously, Obi-Wan wouldn't have joined his side. But it does show us as early as the Battle of Geonosis, Count Dooku was already thinking about betraying Palpatine. Dooku was always an arrogant individual, even as a Jedi. And as we mentioned before, he never really seemed to consider his age and how that would affect his future. I mean, Darth Tyrannus was older than Darth Sidious by a decade or so. And after battling against Anakin Skywalker that first time on Geonosis, you can tell his age was kind of catching up to him. But that's okay, it doesn't really matter because Count Dooku was actually in a really good position to take over the galaxy, at least around this time. He was not only the figurehead and leader of the Separatist Alliance, he was legitimately loved by individuals in the Outer Rim. Their loyalty to him was unshakable. While the rest of the galaxy forgot them and neglected them, this charismatic individual who also happened to be Outer Rim loyalty spent all of his energy fighting for their rights and equality. He gave rousing speeches at the largest venues and pointed out the corruption and inefficiency of the Old Republic system, and how the rich and affluent of the core regions of the galaxy have long leached off of the hard work of upstanding Outer Rim citizens. Count Dooku was a populist with a silver tongue, and he had the Outer Rim firmly beneath his control. The link he had to Darth Sidious was kept hidden for obvious reasons, and perhaps that was Palpatine's biggest mistake, trusting another Sith Lord like Dooku. At this point, even if Palpatine reveals that Dooku is in fact his apprentice and puppet, Dooku could just say he was playing Palpatine the whole time and had planned on rebelling against the Republic and his rule. Either way, the war would have happened. Lines had been drawn in the sand, massive amounts of money were involved, and the corporations were all on board. Except this time around, Count Dooku and the Separatist Alliance would actually go for the Republic's jugular. It would not be pretty. The Republic clone commandos were perhaps a bit too smart for their own good. They were definitely smarter than the Jedi officers who commanded them. Because many of their mission briefings involved a glimpse of the wider Republic strategy, the clone commandos had access to all sorts of information, like troop numbers, fleet locations, logistics, and supply lines. This included information not just about the Grand Army of the Republic, but also the Separatist droid army. With all this information, the Republic commandos realized that the Separatist Alliance completely outnumbered the Republic on almost every front, and for some reason was not taking advantage of their numbers, and they could have probably easily wiped out the Republic if they wanted to. This was really confusing for the clone commandos, and they suspected that something was up. It's actually amazing that more Republic officers didn't come to the same conclusion and bring it to the attention of the wider public. This war never really made any sense from the beginning, if you have all the information. Take a look, example, at the Battle of Geonosis. Count Dooku had a massive military force on the planet. This included a fleet of 286 hard cell transports, 41 Commerce Guild starships, 60 core ships, thousands of Nantex-class territorial defense starfighters, along with multiple Lucra Hulk battleships. There are also several orbital defense platforms surrounding Geonosis. Now, what did the Republic bring to break this blockade? only 12 Acclamator-class assault ships and a few wings of starfighters, along with around 2,000 or so LAATs. They didn't even have capital ships. The Acclamator-class transport was designed to haul troops in once the battlefield had been cleared already. It definitely wasn't designed to breach a blockade and land in a contested battle zone. Now, okay, you could make the argument that the Republic had a jump on the Confederacy at this point and were able to surprise their orbital defense fleet. The Jedi did lead this incursion on starfighters, and these nimble starfighters were able to take out the orbital defense platforms pretty early on in the battle, so we'll still say this is kind of believable. But then let's move on to the ground battle phase. You had around 192,000 clone troopers, the entire first batch of the Kaminoan clones, which was basically all of the infantry the Grand Army of the Republic possessed at the time. These clones were supported by 100 self-propelled heavy artillery turbolasers, along with around 2,160 ATTE Walker tanks. Now, on a good day, a single clone could be worth about a dozen or so B-1 battle droids, especially in an urban terrain where a droid's limited processing power might have issues dealing with the cluttered environments and multiple attack vectors. But on an open battlefield with very little cover, a B-1 battle droid is just as effective, if not more, than a clone trooper. Not only are B-1 battle droids fearless, they also cost a tiny fraction of what a clone trooper costs to raise and train. It also takes 9 years to train a clone trooper, whereas a battle droid can be built within like a few minutes. So how many droids do the Separatist military have defending their extremely important droid foundries? Over 1 million B-1 battle droids, 100,000 B-2 super battle droids, 3,000 droidicas, 7,500 OG-9 homing spider droids, 4,100 IG-227 Hailfire-class droid tanks, and 1,500 DSD-1 dwarf spider droids. And that's not including the 4 million additional droids stored in the Lucre-class battleships in orbit. The same battleships that the Republic invasion fleet blew right by and kind of left in their rear guard. There was never a reason for the Separatist lines to retreat. Sure, maybe Poggle the Lesser and those Trandoshans were a bunch of cowards, but Count Dooku was a seasoned veteran of many military campaigns and conflicts. He very likely understood that he had a huge advantage in this battle, and were it not for his loyalty to Palpatine's long-term plan, he could have easily won the battle. I mean, first, the Jedi are a bunch of idiots. They literally fly straight into a trap and lose like 90% of their strike force in the arena battle. Then the Jedi officers that managed to survive Petronaki Arena deployed their entire ground force in an indefensible irradiated plain. They could have sought shelter in Geonosis' many canyons and ridgelines, but no, they decided to go for a glorious frontal attack. Generally speaking, when you have an attacking force trying to take a fortified position that is defended, you need a 3-to-1 numerical advantage. In this case, the Separatist droid army not only outnumbered the Republic, they probably outnumbered them, I don't know, anywhere from 10-to-1 to 40-to-1 if you include all the ships and reinforcements in orbit. This attack was doomed to fail were it not for that giant dust cloud created by a crashing core ship. The Republic manages to defeat the first wave of Separatist droids, but at this point Count Dooku should have just used his overwhelming numbers, advantages in firepower and air power to surround the Grand Army of the Republic and massacre them. And so just like that, within hours, the Clone Wars would effectively be over. With the Grand Army of the Republic destroyed along with the Jedi High Command, it would only take a few days for the Separatist lines to basically blockade Coruscant and put pressure on the federal government. Of course, the core worlds had their own defense fleets, but it would be a few more months before the first Venator-class Star Destroyers rolled off the orbital assembly lines of Quat Drive yards. And with the fighting right on their doorsteps, core world citizens are going to sue for peace immediately. They really don't care what's happening in the Outer Rim. It's only the politicians who really care about keeping control of these areas. And after all, whatever token Republic defense forces are in the Outer Rim will have been completely wiped out by the Separatist droid army. Something that actually happens in the original timeline even after the Separatists lose at Geonosis. The final piece of the puzzle would be the cloning world of Kamino. Since Count Dooku commissioned the clone army, he'll know everything he needs about the system. The only thing that kept Kamino safe in the early stages of the war was its secrecy. The planet would have been left more or less undefended after Geonosis, leaving it open for a Separatist attack. With Kamino destroyed, Palpatine would be left with very few options. I mean, sure, he could try to do a mass conscription of Republic citizens, but that would take actually a few months to implement, and it would be extremely unpopular. No one wants to fight for the Outer Rim again. Now, of course, Palpatine could leave Coruscant and try to continue the fight against the Separatists. The Republic still had a population and economic advantage, but since they depended so heavily on the cheap raw materials and manufacturing from the Outer Rim, they would still be at a very big disadvantage. So there you have it, guys. I mean, if Count Dooku was a little bit smarter and a little bit less arrogant, maybe if he understood that he was kind of a frail old man at this point, he probably could have taken advantage of his very unique place in the galaxy and taken over the galaxy, or at least won a freedom for his Separatist alliance. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about my theory. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.